Alright guys, how you doing? It's Rabea. I hope you're all well. So we're looking at a brand new product from Synergy in this video. Synergy are a collective of amp designers that create these little modules that you can put in a bunch of their different devices and build a modular amplifier. Amp designers like Friedman, Soldano, Morgan, to name a few, and they have a bunch of different housing units that can house one module or more than one module, and you can just add them and combine them. So you could have the clean channel of a Morgan with the high gain channel of a Soldano, for example. This ecosystem's been around a little while, a few years at least, and lots of artists and players use them and enjoy them because you can power cabs with them, you can run them direct, front of house, direct to your audio interface for recording, and of course the more of these modules you buy, the more of these essentially amplifiers you own. You can just change them out and get all sorts of different tones. But it's tube preamp, so it gives you a nice reactive responsive feel as well. In any case, we're looking at a brand new product from Synergy today, which is the SYN 20 IR amp head. Just before we go any further, I just want to let you know this is a sponsored video. My good friend Stefan, who works with Synergy, asked me if I wanted to check this out ahead of release, put it on my channel and promote it to all you guys in case you might be interested. So I just wanted to clear that up, that this is a sponsored video. Let's move on. So the SYN 20 IR, first and foremost, is an amplifier. It's a tube amplifier. It has all the bells and whistles of modern products, such as balanced XLR out with IR loaders, has USB out for a desktop app that you can control the whole thing from. It has the module slot on the front. Not only that, it has its own sort of clean channel that adds to any module that you might put in front of it. In this video, I'm going to be using the Direct, which is a message rectifier kind of thing. And it's cool because I now have the clean channel from the amplifier itself, and then I have two channels of dual rectifier. So I dial them in as like a crunch and a high gain. It's got an effects loop. It's got a bunch of cool features on the front of it, such as like structure switches, which change the feel of the amp from like a vintage feel to a modern feel and then somewhere in between. And it also has something called Reactance, which if you imagine is presence and depth kind of all rolled into one. So the higher you turn it, the more sort of presence it has, and the lower you turn it, sort of duller and thicker it gets. It really depends on how you like this thing to sound. But on top of that, you know, it's got a 3-channel foot switch. It's MIDI programmable as well, so it can do a lot of different things. Like I said, in this video, I'm using the Direct module. So I've got my kind of Mesa crunch, Mesa overdrive, the clean from the amplifier itself, and we're going to mess around. We're going to hear, you know, the structure switches. We're also going to hear the IRs that we can flick between and just get some tones. I've got my pedal board plugged into it. As this is an amp with an effects loop, I'm running the Strifector, the Gig Rig mothership with a bunch of different pedals and fuzzes, so we'll really put it through its paces. On top of that, I'm controlling the whole thing with this MIDI foot switch, which allows me to change between the different channels, as you can hear. As you can see on the front panel, you've got volume for your clean channel, you've got tone for your clean channel, reactance, which is that knob that I said it kind of acts as presence and depth all in one, and then you've got the master of the amplifier itself. As I said, it's 20-watt tube head, so it's powering a cab. We're running it into this Victory 212 with Alnico Golds in it, SM7 on the front. We've got a structure switch, which moves between 3 different types of structure. One is kind of a nice balance in between a vintage and a modern, so it's a little bit bright, it's got a bit of thump to it. And then you've got one that's more of a vintage feel, so it's sparkling top end, a little looser, and then you've got a modern feel, which is, I guess, like less top end, thicker but tighter as well. So you can switch between those three very easily. And then we've got channel foot switch as well, which I'm controlling with this MIDI foot switch here, as you can see. It's 3-button foot switch powered by MIDI. This amp is also MIDI programmable, so you can add it to your MIDI rig if you want to. And also you've got your IRs as well, and it's got 4 different IR slots. They're already preloaded in here, different 412s with different speakers. When you use the app, you can add different IRs in there as well. It has a bunch more in there. You can also add your own, and you can flick between them with the IR button. As you can see, the LED changes between which IR you're using. I've got an XLR running straight into my interface so that you can hear the IR as well, and we can flick between them and all that. But main point here is that I'm using my pedal board with all my rig running into this amplifier, mic'd up with SM7 into this cab, and we're just going to mess around and hear what it does. Okay, let's test it out. Artist Series Sabre with humbuckers, silos, new color that we're testing out. It's pretty nice. In any case, this is what it sounds like. This is the clean, straight in bridge pickup. So it's very much a clean channel. I actually like the sound of it on the bridge pickup. It's nice and chimey. Let's add a little bit of reverb. We can throw in a little bit of compression. Throw on the Revival drive by Origin Effects. Spanky. So it takes pedals nicely, which is a good thing. I've always never been sure with these kind of products how well they take pedals, but at the end of the day, it's a tube amp, so it's nice to hear. And also, it's worth saying that this is just the first channel. I haven't really done much with it. The reactance is just over halfway. The tone is down. If I turn the tone to halfway, so next up, let's move on to, I mean, we've heard the Synergy model of the Direct, but through an amp and cab and all the rest of it. Should be pretty cool. So here comes the first channel, or in my case, sort of crunch. Throw on a bit more reverb and delay. Bit of compression. So anyway, I'm kind of getting carried away in the tone of this particular module. It's nice to hear it amplified through a cab. So first thing we'll try, I guess, when we get onto the structure stuff, it's probably better to do it on high gain so you can really hear the difference. The tone doesn't work once you've engaged the module. So when you start using the channels in the module, you know, things like tone aren't going to do anything. That's just for the clean channel. The reactance will still do something. So I guess in this instance, let's hear the reactance. You can clearly hear when you turn the reactance up, it gets a lot sort of, you know, sizzly from that, from the presence and everything. And the cool thing is that you can also counter that with the sounds coming from the module. So the presence is quite high here, so I can back that off. And I guess the idea is that you balance the overall sort of level of the reactance across all the channels of the amplifier, because it affects, you know, all the channels, including the clean. So it's important that you find a good spot for that, and then you can set the module how you want it. Let's throw it on with a bit of reverb. We've got the compressor Origin Cali stacked with the Origin Revival drive. So this is without and with. Let's move on to the high gain channel and you can hear what the structure switch does. So that's the direct sort of high gain channel, sounds good. So let's try, put the reactance there. And now let's move between the three different structures. So this is structure one, which I believe is sort of a nice middle point. So structure A is that middle point I mentioned, which is a bit of both worlds. Structure B is the vintage side, which is sparkling highs and it's a bit looser. And then structure C is more modern, it's tighter and less bright in the top. But the other thing worth mentioning is you've still got presence in the module, treble, and you've got the reactance, which not only does it do, you know, presence and depth, but also sag as well. So you can brighten that up if you want. I think for me though, I prefer A. It's that halfway house, just works. At this point, it's probably a good opportunity to show you the IRs that are built into this. So as I mentioned before, using the desktop editor, you can swap them out, add your own, whatever. But it comes preloaded with 4, and we're currently on IR number 1, and there are 3 others. And I believe they're all just different variations of 412s. So I'm going to set up a loop, and I'm just going to chug, and I'm going to switch between them so that you can hear what's going on. And I figured it's probably best to do this with a high gain tone because you'll hear the harmonic content a little bit more. So let me set up the chug. Okay, I've set up a chug on the loop, and I'm just going to go ahead, play it, and switch between all the IRs. Okay, so you can hear all the IRs doing their thing. It's also worth pointing out that this amplifier works perfectly without a cab, so you can run it direct to front of house. It doesn't have to have a load plugged in, so that's very nice. It's cool that you've got those IRs as well on the front of the amp. You can switch them in and out. And of course, all of this is MIDI accessible as well, whether it's the structure, the cabs, the channel, all the rest of it. So it is very usable in that MIDI interface too, not just as a normal amplifier, but it's nice that we can just control it like a normal amplifier. All right, well, there's a look at the SYN 20 IR from Synergy amps. Obviously, it depends entirely on the module that you put in the front of it. I had the D-Rex available to me, so that's what I chucked in there. But of course, you might have a Soldano, you might have a Friedman, you might have a Morgan. You know, you can use this in many different applications. And I think the idea with the feature set on the front is to help you mold this thing how you want. So, you know, it will respond completely differently when you plug like a Morgan into it or something than it would with, say, you know, Friedman, Fryette, whatever. The point is that it gives you more flexibility to the modules that you already own. On top of the fact it powers a cab, and then it has, you know, the IRs built in, the MIDI functionality, the USB interface for the desktop editor, the effects loop. It kind of expands on your modules more so than, say, the sort of the rack unit that just allows you to use the modules. I know the rack units do have sag on them and things like that, but this has sort of more thought out features in that world, and it gives you amplification. It's also nice that you can not have it plugged into a cab and not worry about blowing it up, which is obviously the case with traditional tube amps. In any case, that's the 20 IR. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let me know if you enjoyed the tones and how it sounds. Obviously, I've had it mic'd up through a cab. It's going to sound very specific to the way I've done that over the YouTube. Of course, I've shown you what the IRs sound like as well. It all depends. I mean, at the end of the day, video demos on YouTube are certainly tainted in a certain way because it all depends on how the user chose to portray the tones to you at the other end. But hopefully I did a half decent job and you enjoyed the way it sounded. And if you're already in the ecosystem of Synergy, maybe you'll give this some consideration. In any case, a huge thanks to Stefan for reaching out for me to do this video and send the gear over for me to check out. Thank you for watching this video. Links in the description box. Like, subscribe and share. I've been Rabea and I'll see you all very soon.